Final question on domestic policy, on redistricting. President Trump is threatening to primary, as you know, all of the Indiana lawmakers who voted against his redistricting plan, the new map that would have benefited Republicans. Do you support Republicans trying to redraw maps mid-decade?
You know, it's this escalation on both sides. You know, both sides are doing it. And so is one side going to sit quietly and not do it? You can argue who started it. But I do think this, and this is on the negative aspect of both parties doing this. I think that it's going to lead to more civil tension and possibly more violence in our country. Because think about it. If 35% of Texas is Democrat, solidly Democrat, and they have zero representation, or like in my state, we're a very Republican state, but we have one Democrat area in Louisville, and we have a Democrat congressman. We could carve up Louisville and get rid of that one congressman. But how does that make Democrats feel? I think it makes them feel like they're not represented. And so I don't know. I think it's bad, but it's really not one party or the other doing it. It's both parties have been doing it since the beginning of time. But in general, when it becomes so extreme, like if California has no Republican representatives after this is done, or has one left, I think that makes people so dissatisfied they think, well, the electoral process isn't working anymore. Maybe we have to resort to other means. And I don't want that. And I think both parties it could happen to. But I think we need to be aware of and think about that before we do all of this.
Senator, I have to follow up with you because what you're saying is very significant. You're saying that you are concerned redistricting could lead to more political violence?
I'm concerned if there are no representatives, like no Republican representatives in California or no Democrats in Texas, that it will be so thoroughly one-sided that people will feel like their vote isn't counting. And so I think it's a mistake. But I'm not saying it's a mistake of the Republicans. I'm saying it's a mistake of both parties. And I don't know exactly how we de-escalate this, because once, you know, Texas is done and changed 5 seats to be more Republican, California's going to do the same thing. And it's back and forth and back and forth. And how do you put the genie back in the box? I mean, how do you get back to détente? I mean, how do you do something better? But I think there is the potential that when people have no representation, that they feel disenfranchised, that it can lead and might lead to violence in our country.
Wow, a Republican gets it. Some of it anyway. I feel like because Rand Paul is the way he talks is sort of like a chill and lackadaisical. That maybe he either doesn't understand or didn't express actually the significance of what he just said. So, you know, I work, I pay taxes. Right now I live in an area where my representative is Republican. Or sorry, she's a Democrat. But Trump, I am one of those districts in Texas, the 5 seats that he asked Abbott to flip. And the new drawn map has the, you know, it definitely has the, there's a greater risk that the area that I live in will vote Republican because of the way that the maps were redrawn. And that pisses me off greatly. Now, I'm not going to be violent over it, but at what point does somebody, you know, pay taxes and live in a community and feel like their voice doesn't matter? The maps were redrawn not because the districts are better represented now. The maps were redrawn to favor President Trump because he wants them to, because he's afraid of the House flipping to, you know, that Democrats will win the majority of the House and that he's at risk of impeachment and that his that he will get more resistance in the House. So I was rather, you know, I feel like now the area, the district that I live in, that my vote doesn't count, really, that we don't count, the whole district doesn't count. And if the case is that, say, I think he used the statistics of 35. Say Texas is 35% Democrat, which I think it's more than that, but whatever, okay. If we don't have 35% representation in the House and, you know, yeah, I think that there is a serious, not only a serious increase of likelihood of political violence, but a serious likelihood of discontent with the government set up the way it is now. I mean, why are we paying all this money? Why am I paying for that, for Congress and the Senate? Why am I paying when they don't represent me at all? When actually the whole system is set up where my voice isn't going to matter at all. My voice and people who think like me that live in my district, in my state. So Rand Paul, I want to say great job. I agree with you. I think we're at risk of increasing overall civil discontent with the way things are being done right now. Unfortunately, though, President Trump is only focused on one thing, and that is the remaining 3 years he's in office. He is not focused on the well-being of the country. He is not focused on what comes after his presidency. He is focused on the next three years. That's it. And himself, really. I also wanted to say that President Trump threatening to primary people who don't agree with him, basically who don't roll along. I guess Indiana, what happened was Indiana rejected the state House or the state Senate there, rejected the redrawn map that Trump wanted to flip more districts into the favor of the Republicans. They rejected that map, and he's throwing a tantrum, Trump is, and saying that he's going to primary the Indiana state lawmakers that didn't agree, that didn't pass that map. This is part of what is happening at both the state and the federal levels, is that President Trump, which I don't believe is masculine at all, he is, being a tyrant, and if he doesn't get his way, he makes life miserable. And he goes out and he blasts people publicly, which increases death threats to those people and their families. And this is the nature of what is happening. And those that support Trump, this is what you are supporting. Our lawmaking process should be civil. It shouldn't be people being afraid to speak up or do what they feel is right because the president is going to blast them publicly, primarying candidates against incumbents should, in my opinion, should be about who is best fit for that office, not because you don't get your way.